This is our third year that we've had a team from Valley Christian Academy join us from Ohio. Where's that in Ohio? Aurora. Was Waynesboro, Ohio, or was Aurora, Illinois, I think, right? That's right. All right. Well, we'll just pretend it was Aurora, Ohio. But so Valley Christian Academy, they've come out. This is our third year, and they've joined us. We've been at 2 different locations in the past. We've been in like 4 different locations, but they've been in with us in 2 different locations. They come out, and Pastor Jeff Davidson is helping them plan this trip. Jeff and I were on staff at Christian Life Assembly in Camp Hill. Jeff was youth pastor there while I was the college pastor, and our kids are great friends and we love them. And he contacted us a couple years ago and said, "Hey, this is my kid's school. Would you be interested in helping us with a missions trip?" And so they come out here this morning. They're at Milton Hershey. They came and they were painting stuff here with us last night, and they're going to do that again today. And they just have a whole week planned of doing outreaches and showing people the love of Jesus here in Harrisburg. And we are excited to have them here for our service. Why don't you give a hand for them, and we'll have Pastor Jeff come on up.
All right, we're going to have the Stomp team get set up while I just kind of introduce here. And so we are really excited. We got here on Friday night, and this is a great group of 8th graders. And it's fun for me that when I left Harrisburg and went out to Cleveland to be able to find a school that really met the needs for my girls. And so to find this school, this is the only year, the next 4 years, this is the one year I don't have a girl here of my own. So, but these are some great 8th graders here. Just want to let you know that we started a nonprofit about 5 years ago called Lastly. And we take missions teams all over the world. We go to Peru, Nicaragua, Panama, Dominican Republic, Trinidad, and we go to Northern Ireland. And I just want to tell you just a quick story that 2 years ago we were back in, when you guys were in the HPAC, I don't know, is that what it's called? Yeah. HPAC, you guys know what that HPAC is? Okay. So I was there and I was just explaining about the trip that we go to, different places we go to, and one of the girls from the church came up, her name is Joy, and came up to me and she says, "Hey, I want to tell you something, but I'll probably start crying as I tell you the story." And as soon as she said that, she started crying. Like she was like right on cue. She knew exactly that she was going to cry. And told me this whole thing, and she told me that she goes that, you know, her dad just passed away. And she was graduating from college, and her dad wanted to take her and her mom to Northern Ireland and be able to do that. They just really felt a real just kinship with Northern Ireland, but didn't think they would ever get there. And so I said, well, let's just pray about it. The cool part for me is it ended up being this girl was someone I went to college with like 20 years earlier. Like, that was just her niece. And so to make the story as short as I could possibly make it, they ended up coming along that the dad actually had it set that he saved money for the both of them, and their trips were completely paid off for them to go. And I'll tell you what, I feel like God restored something in them in that week. So I just want to tell you that missions trips are amazing. They're life-changing. One of my favorite lines by a guy named Mark Batterson says, "Change of pace plus change of place equals change of perspective." And so these guys are coming here from just 5 hours away, but it can be like, you know, Northern Ireland. It could be a whole other world away. And I remember, last year, 2 years ago, like some of the kids, I've seen them again. They go, "I want to go back to Harrisburg." I'm like, that's awesome, because not a lot of people say they want to come back to Harrisburg. You know what I'm saying? So to hear them say that, that God put something on their heart, and God's put something on Pastor Tommy and Becca's heart to put a church right here in the city. So we're so glad to be a part of it, and we're so glad to be able to help out. So this is our 8th graders from VCA, and they're going to do the first thing called Stop.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. 4. Okay. Go. want to focus on trust. Trust is very important in our lives, not only with our friends and family, but with our relationship with Christ. To get started, I would like to introduce Julia, who will talk about trust.
Give her the microphone,
As believers, we should recognize that trust and faith are two very similar but different topics. I don't know about Harrisburg, but back in Ohio, we have a fair amount of tornado warnings and watches in the springtime. Whenever one of these warnings or watches happens, me and my family grab my cats and run to our basement. When we are in our basement, we always pray for our safety. When we are in my dad's office, we always we are trusting our house that it will hold up. When we pray for our safety, we have faith in God. This is the difference between trust and faith. Trust can be trusting people or objects, and faith is believing God's plan is the right plan. Some people say faith in God is not real because sometimes bad things happen that cause us to doubt His plan. When something goes wrong, we often blame God. But when God protects us, it means God's plan is what is right for us. Bad experiences may help us relate to others. Before we trust others, we need to trust God and His plan. God gives us guidance and wisdom when we trust Him. Trusting others is impossible without God, and trusting God is faith. This is why faith is the most important part of trusting anyone or anything. Trusting God can be easy or hard for certain people. Some people think trusting God is easy because you can just say that you trust God. But trusting God is actually a deep relationship of believing God's plan is right. Others think trusting God is hard because of the difficulties life throws at us that cause us to doubt His plan. This has happened to me, of course. Last year, I said something to my friends that made them mad at me that I shouldn't have said to them, and I blame God for letting me make this decision. But the next day at school, my friends forgave me for my bad decision. Having true faith in God means that God takes care of you in the best way. In the end, we can't trust others without having a legit faith in God first. Next time you're worried or in a difficult situation, remember to have faith in God's plan.
Hi, Jesus.
Hi, Maddie. What's wrong?
Nothing. I'm just going through a difficult time, but you wouldn't understand.
Well, I think I have the perfect exercise that will really help us.
Okay.
The exercise is this. You face this way with your feet together and your arms out. Now, anytime I ask you if you trust me, you say, "Yes, Jesus, I trust you."
Even though I don't trust you?
It's all part of the exercise.
Okay.
Now, I'm really going to need your trust.
Okay.
I'm going to need you to fall back.
Are you going to catch me?
Don't worry about that part.
What's the part I'm worried about?
It's practice.
Okay.
Now fall back.
Okay, Jesus, I trust you.
No, Maddie, you can trust me. You can do this. Now keep your feet planted and your arms out.
Okay, Jesus, I remember in your word it says to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him and He will make your path straight. I think I got it, Jesus.
All right.
Okay, Jesus, I trust you.
No, Maddie, you can do this. Just trust me.
Okay, I'm really going to do it this time, Jesus. I got it. Okay, Jesus, I trust you.
Just like how Maddie had some issues trusting God, we all have issues sometimes in our lives. I'd like to introduce Ethan, who will come up to talk about difficulties while having trust.
One of the hardest things to do in life is to obey what God says for us. Obedience is hard because mostly we don't do it because we don't feel like getting up from whatever we're doing, or sometimes you might even argue back why or you don't want to. This happens because you're doing something that you'd much rather be doing than the thing that you're being asked to do. However, even I can do that sometimes because we aren't perfect. But we still have to be obedient because it's one of the most important commandments in the Bible. One of the most important things that we need to do is to obey God's laws and teachings. One of the largest things mentioned in the Bible is that God wants us to obey him and spread his gospel all around the world. He tells us to obey without question, but that can be hard because we can be caught up in our own personal struggles, whether that can be something in your own personal life, with a relative, or anything else that may be troubling you in your life. Sometimes it might be that you don't feel worthwhile to do anything because something may have happened that may have shook your life a little bit more than you expected it to. It can also, obedience doesn't need to be what someone says. It can also be what someone says about you. In the Bible, we need to believe and obey what Jesus says we are. He says that we're special, and he says that he loves you, and he says that he trusts you as well. He'll do whatever it takes to get to you, and he'll try to keep you above the water the best he can. I have a friend named Chloe, and she lives in North Carolina. She has a lot of struggles in her life with her family and her drugs, and that makes her really doubt, and she'll self-harm herself because she feels that it's all her fault. And one day I was talking to her, and she cracked, and finally I knew that I had to get her to pray and to trust God that he would take care of her. We were talking for about an hour, and she kept resisting, and eventually I finally got her to pray. After this, she didn't contact me for about another half an hour or so. And when she finally did get back to me, it was a miracle because I'd never seen her this happy in my life. And it really affected me because it made me think of what she was thinking in her mind at that moment, of how much she trusted God after she prayed and how much he loves her. Now, because of that, she has been 4 months without doing any self-harm or anything that she did before. She's done this because of the hope that God gave her and how she was inspired by him. Some people go through things with themselves where they think that they aren't worth anything, that the world doesn't love them as they are, and this is so far from the truth. He shows that you're loved, and you can help so many people in your life in so many ways, and every one of you guys are valuable to God and to each other. Obedience is kind of like a tug of war between God and Satan. On one side, we have emotion, and on the other side, we have will. Now, this is Satan's side, emotion. And emotion can either be really sad, or really mad, or anything else you may be experiencing that are tearing you down. You need to refuse what Satan says and listen to what God says you really are. He says he created you for a purpose. So go. Help teach people their purpose. It can make a big difference in someone's lives, whether it's an issue with themselves or family or anything that troubles them in their lives. Go.
Oh, yeah.
As you can see, God is always the winner.
Trusting in objects is easier than trusting in people. What I mean by that is you're sitting on the floor, a chair, or even standing. You believe it is going to hold you and is not going to collapse on itself. You don't know the person who made it, but you assume it's going to stand strong. Trusting in people is harder though. When people let you down, it's hard for them to regain your trust. This happens even with objects. I was on a cart in the store and I was riding on the front of it and I fell back and the cart fell on me. I never wanted to go to the store after that, or ride on a cart for that matter. But then I went because I had to, and I actually enjoyed it. I had to take a leap of faith, just like we have to take a leap of faith with God. If you do that, everything will make sense. In the story of Jonah, Jonah is called to do something that he doesn't want to do, and so he decides to do something else, and then what he does isn't right, and God punishes him for it. And so then when he did what he was supposed to do, it worked out all in God's plan. It's sometimes hard for people to believe in
believe in God because they will go through bad situations and say, why did God let this happen? I've gone through a hard time too. The uncle that I'm closest to had lung cancer. He lived in California and was all by himself. My dad and his brother would alternate going out there. He was getting worse and worse, and it scared me because I don't have any grandparents, and he's the closest thing that I have to one. So my dad moved him out to Ohio, and so he lives with us. He was getting so much better, and now his cancer is in remission, which means temporarily gone. It's been in remission for over a year now. If I didn't trust in God, it could have been a whole other result. Trusting is hard enough without faith, but when you add faith, it's even harder. Sometimes the enemy will tempt you into thinking you should trust someone or even something. The devil prowls around like a roaring lion waiting for someone to devour. That means that the enemy is waiting for someone to slip up. But when you have God and constantly repent, the enemy can never get to you. Wait. I'm sorry, I'm not done. Don't let the enemy mess with you because you have God on your side and God always wins. God wins because he has power. We need to believe in him and he will give us some of that power. He helps us in our daily lives. He's like your personal assistant, and the instructions using him properly is the Bible. Jeremiah 5:26 says, their tongue is a deadly arrow. It speaks deceitfully. With their mouths they all speak cordially to their neighbors, but in their hearts they set traps for them. This is saying that our tongues are a powerful weapon. It speaks many lies. With our mouths we speak kindly to everyone, but in our hearts we don't care. The problem with that is we should care. We need to be more kind to our brothers and sisters in Christ. We need to start being there for each other. We need to make sure we spread the word of the gospel to one another. They are brothers and sisters too, and we must look out for them. Deuteronomy 33:7 says, and this he said about Judah, hear, Lord, the cry of Judah. Bring him to his people. With his own hands he defends his cause. Oh, be his help against his foes. This is a prayer to Jesus asking for Jesus to help the people of Judah. He asked Jesus to help defend what he is fighting for. He wants Jesus to help him fight his enemies. He was trusting that God would help him. We need to ask God to help us fight for God's cause. He does so much for us. The least we could do is tell more people about him and how great he is.
Thank you. As Maya said before, it is hard to trust in God because we have all had hard times in our lives, whether it was the death of somebody close to you, or maybe a time when you were bullied, or you just didn't feel like you belonged where you were in this world. For me, one of the hardest things was losing my grandmother to cancer while I was in 6th grade. When I found out, I started crying, and I felt like there was a hole left inside of me. When I got home, I just laid on my bed and did nothing. After a while, I got over it. You might be wondering why I shared this story with you. It's because the death of my grandmother gave me the opportunity to connect with people's lives and to help them. But at the time, my mind was too clouded with grief to realize. God gives us all opportunities, He gave me and my class the opportunity to come to Harrisburg and make an impact on the people's lives in Harrisburg. Sometimes God gives us an opportunity that we don't think we can handle, but God gave you that specific opportunity because He knows you are the perfect person for it. Trust and opportunity are connected. If you do not have trust in God or yourself, when you get an opportunity, you may pass up on it. There are examples of opportunity and trust together in the Bible, like David and Goliath or Jonah and the whale. Recently, at my church, we went over Jonah and the whale. So, in case you don't know, I'll give you a quick rundown. God told Jonah to go to Nineveh and just tell them if they did not stop their evil ways, He would tear down the city. But Jonah, knowing that Nineveh was one of the most evil places in the world, did not have trust in God and tried to run. So he went on a boat with a bunch of fishermen. After a while, a huge storm came, and even the fishermen, who have been on the seas for years, were terrified. So they went to Jonah to see if he had any idea why the storm was there. After a while, Jonah realized the storm was there because he tried to run from God. So after a few minutes, he was thrown off the boat to stop the storm. Then he was eaten by a whale. But he did not die. Instead, he stayed in the whale for 3 days. In the whale, he prayed to God and gained his trust in Him. When he got out of the whale, he went to Nineveh and told them what God had said. In the matter of days, Nineveh stopped their evil ways. This story ties in with the lesson because God gave Jonah the opportunity to go to Nineveh and to help them, but he did not have trust in God or himself, so he tried to run. But when he went in the whale, he gained his trust in God. So when he got out, he went to Nineveh and told them what God had said. If you have trust in God, He will give you an opportunity to help somebody, whether it's as small as helping someone in school when they're struggling, or as big as preventing someone from killing themselves, like Ethan said. God knows what you are best at, and He will use your abilities to change this world.
don't know about you, about when you were in 8th grade, being able to come up here and share in front of a bunch of adults. They were in front of 400 K through 4th graders just about an hour or so ago. So they've had a busy morning already. But I just wanted to close by just telling you a story. Christmas time, my wife likes to buy like interesting gifts sometimes, like for the girls. We're always looking like for life lesson kind of things. And so, has anyone ever seen an arrow garden? You know what an arrow garden is? All right. So, anyways, like, there's this like little contraption that has like a light on top of it, and they come with these 6 pods in it. So, like different like herbs that you would put in. And so we put those herbs in. It gives you instructions. I mean, it's like the easiest thing. It just tells you when to water, when to feed, all that kind of stuff. Who's not good at gardening? Anybody? All right, me too. Not good at it at all. And so I'm good at killing things, but I'm not good at a good gardener. So anyways, we got this arrow garden. So it's January. We put this thing together. We put these pods in. Here's a picture of it here. So here's all the herbs. There's 4 of them that just started off so well, but there was 2 that still had the plastic on top, and they were very adamant. They said, do not take the plastic off until it hits the top of that, until the green would hit the top of the plastic. So it's a couple weeks in. These ones are growing. These 4 are doing well, and these 2 duds, man, they were just like not happening at all. So my mindset is, let's get rid of these 2 things and let's go get 2 new ones. And so my oldest daughter, Summer, some of you might know, she was here last year, and she goes, Dad, you just have to trust the process. Thank you so much, Miss 15-year-old, giving your dad some wisdom there. And I'm like, I've been watching this thing, and it's not working, okay? 2 more weeks go by, the other ones are growing, these 2 are not. Again, ready to rip them out. I actually lifted the bottom, and the roots were so interconnected that there was no way I could pull those 2 out without damaging the rest of them. So I said, okay, we'll just leave them. We'll leave them in there. And a couple weeks later, you get this. They're all thriving, all of them. And yeah, I know, isn't it crazy to look at that? I mean, they're growing, we've been using all those little herbs and stuff like that. It's so cool. But I say that is because, you know what? Sometimes we want to give up. Sometimes we want to give up on people because they're not growing as fast as somebody else. Sometimes you might see, someone in your own family that you're looking at and say, man, I just want to give up on them. I'll tell you, my brother, he walked away from God for 16 years. And, I'll tell you what, Mom and Dad, they continue to pray for him, but I'll tell you what, he came back and he turned it around. And so I'm just going to tell you that I know God has special things for rescue. Yeah. And it's interesting for me to think that we've been here. I've known Becca and Tommy since before the church started, and know that the heart they have for the city. And I know that you've moved around. Like, we've been in 3 different locations, but you have this building now. And I'll tell you what, I think that you're ready for the plastic to come off. Me too. And I think you're just going to see tremendous growth in this next year. I really, really believe that with all my heart. And so I know that a lot of you've trusted and you've sown into this and you've given. And I'll tell you what, you're getting ready for an amazing season. I just feel it. I just feel it with all my heart. You're bringing the right people along, and you guys are going to do some incredible things. But I just wanted to close. I just feel like today that some of you that there's something that's going on in your life, something you've been trusting God for a long time. And you're saying, God, I just don't see you. I feel like I'm still underneath that plastic. I feel like that something's going on, and I want to see breakthrough, but I just don't feel like it's going to happen. We want to pray with you today. I just really believe that God wants to see a breakthrough for you guys today. So I just want you to close your eyes for a second, and if that resonates with you, if it's something that's you personally, or maybe there's a family member you've been praying for, or maybe there's something going on. Sean, if you want to come up, if you want to come and do that. But I just really believe there's some of you that are you've been trusting God for a long time for something. Maybe you've been struggling with something. You're saying, God, I want to break it. I want this breakthrough to happen. If that's you, I just want you to raise your hand. Is that anybody out there? Awesome. Thanks for your honesty. Thank you for your honesty. All right. Well, we're going to just pray, and I just want to encourage you. If you would like prayer, I'll tell you, there's nothing more powerful in my mind for for someone who did youth ministry for 20 years, is the power of a praying teenager. And if you would like to come up, man, they would love to pray with you. And you don't have to tell them the whole story or anything like that. They just want to pray with you and believe and trust with you that God is going to see the breakthrough happen in your life. So God, I thank you for every hand that went up. Lord, I thank you so much for each person here at Rescue. And Lord, the sacrifices they've made, Lord, to get to this spot. But we just know it's just the beginning. I just feel like these next 5 years are just going to be such exponential growth that they're going to look back and say, wow, God, you are so amazing. But Lord, for each one of us that's going through our own individual stuff, our own struggle, or maybe someone in our family, maybe it's a health thing that you need prayer for. You want to see breakthrough in that. We're just believing today, Lord, for miracles. We're believing for breakthrough because we know you're capable of doing it. God, thank you for this in Jesus' name. Amen. I'm going to have the head of school come up here. This is Dale Moncrief, and we're so thankful to have him here. It's our first time coming out to Harrisburg, and so we're so glad he's here. But he just wanted to be able to pray over you guys. But if anybody that you raise your hand, you want to come up with prayer at the end, we're not going anywhere. So we'd love to be able to pray with you today.
Well, I just want to say thank you for allowing us the privilege to come. One of our core values at BCA is service, because I believe that young people can learn how to serve. They don't have to wait till they're adults to learn how to serve. And every class, K through 8, has an outreach project. This is the culmination of it. They get a whole week out of school. For them, it's a big deal to come to Harrisburg, and I just want to thank you for letting them come. We have a tradition at BCA in chapel. When a chapel speaker ministers to us, we pray for them. And so even though they did all the work and you did all the sitting, you have ministered to them by allowing them to come. So we're all going to stretch our hands toward you, and that's our way of praying for you. And so I'm going to ask if you would stand up, and they're gonna pray at you while I pray with you. So let's just, Lord, we thank you for this church. I thank you for your blessings, and as I've heard the story of the moves and all that's been going on, Lord, I agree with Jeff. Would you please pour out continued blessings on Rescue Community Church? I pray for Pastor Tommy and his family and the leadership of this church, that you would give them vision and you would open their eyes. I pray that you would go before them and open the paths before them. I pray that people would walk up and sense a need and just give abundantly to the things that they have and the things that they need. Lord, we've talked about trust today, and we've talked about obedience today, and we've talked about faith and believing. And Lord, as a church launching out, all of those things come to bear. So I pray for this congregation. Lord, I pray that when we come back in a year, it will have doubled. And the next year it will have tripled. And I just ask, Lord, that you would bring the people to this church that you want them to minister to. I thank you for the name, Rescue, Renew, and then Repeat. Lord, I pray that would truly be what you do through this church in this town. And I thank you for letting us be part of it. And I ask that you would bless this group for allowing us to come and minister to them. And so we just commit this day, your day, to you. May we glorify you throughout this day. Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. Thank you so much.